Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of AA Meetings. Abdi and I were, of course, planning to do a two-person episode, but I figured it's been almost a month since the last episode, and so much has been going on that I felt as if I make a little solo episode, touch on a few things. Main thing I want to talk about is what is to be done going forward under the Biden administration now that it's pretty much guaranteed he will be the president. What are the challenges that face the left and American people in general under this administration, which I am not too optimistic about, right? Of course, I do think Trump's loss was a very good thing, but one danger that it poses, especially since he lost by such a huge margin, is the tendency for people to fall back into this notion of American politics as being this cosmic struggle between good and evil, which both political parties frame it as, right? Going back almost to the beginning of American history, you even see that kind of thing with Lincoln talking about, the better angels of America, right? Framing the political conflicts within the country as being results of the moral and philosophical bankruptcy of a percentage of the population, as opposed to the economic conflicts that arise within its capitalistic system, right? Good example of this, perfect example of this, is going back to Lincoln's framing and the popular framing of the opposition to the slavery and the northern abolitionists as being motivated purely by ideological abhorrence to, moral abhorrence to slavery, when in actuality it was just the incompatibility of northern capitalism with southern feudalistic slavery, right? And that's evidenced by the fact that after the war was over, after the northern bourgeoisie was able to exert its dominance over the industry of the South, then you had the Reconstruction era, in which they really abandoned all of the moral and philosophical language about abolition, and made marriages of convenience with Southern racists, leading to almost 100 years of Jim Crow laws, right? And a very very other racist segregatory practices, right? You know what I mean. There is a benefit to this framing of politics in such a way, though, to the political class, right? Because if you are a politician and you're able to say that there's half this country is full of demons, right? And my function as a politician will be protecting you from them, right? Our function as a Democratic Party is ensuring that the reins of power do not get given to, are never given to those people, right? And the actual benefit, the tangible impact that the politician might have on the actual lives of his constituents is irrelevant. I don't need to actually do anything for you. I don't need to, if I'm the Democratic Party, for example, I don't need to improve your healthcare standards. I don't need to address your precarious finances, right? I don't need to address the violence in the communities that you face and the police brutality, because I'm preventing the Republicans from holding an office, right? And so really, the devastating thing that this might have, I think, politically going forward, is that you see that demonization being attributed to the Republican Trump supporters, especially those ones in the deindustrialized regions, right? The ones that we think about as being susceptible to Trump's economic populism, right? This right-wing populism, the reason it bothers me is because it's very clear that the decay of these communities, the shift towards Trump and fascist politics, is a result of the deindustrialization of these communities, which is in turn a result of automation, right? Of course, right? These people have lost their jobs. They've lost, in an American reified capitalist society, your job is your life. It's your identity. When you lose your job, you don't have anything. They fall into depression, stagnation, oftentimes leading to acts of violence. You see that in recently fired or laid off workers going back to their workplace and shooting up their former coworkers. Or you see, people sliding into substance abuse or depression and oftentimes suicide, just as a result of their losing a place in society, And we've talked about often, Abdi and I, about studies about radicalization, how they show that the basic impulse that's shared by all radicals, regardless of their ideology, is the ideology they end up in, is this desire to find a place for yourself within society, to recontextualize things such that you have a meaning in your life, right? So the problem with I'm sorry. You can almost expect increase in radicalization, violence, right-wing nationalism as a result of the deindustrialization. It follows naturally, but in the political framing of it as America as being a struggle between good and evil, it's just no. These people aren't dispossessed. These people aren't going through a period of painful reimagination of their place in society and their future, of themselves and their children. No. It's just that they're pieces of shit, and that we need to make sure that they have no power in our political system, right? Same things that happen with the black community you see in the 20th century, where you see the industrialization of agriculture in the South, removing just about every job that the sharecroppers had, moved to the North to look for any way to make a living, and there's a industrialization of the industrialization of the factories in the cities that they moved to. So around the 60s and 70s, 80s, you see the transformation of, you see black people ending up being trapped in these cities that they fled to for economic reasons, because the jobs have floated away. And the problems that arise within those communities as a result of the loss of the deindustrialization, loss of their economic position, is blamed on the community, right? So we see rises in drug use, we see rises in violence, increases in crime lead to the development of gangs. Those gangs become the focus of media attention, right? And we see that the problems that arise in the communities are blamed on the communities themselves, and no action needs to be taken to ameliorate it. We just need to protect the rest of society from them. That's happened to black people in the 20th century, and we're seeing it happening with all people in deindustrialized regions, especially white people in the 21st century too, right? We need to address that fact too, right? It just I feel like we could benefit dramatically from learning about like Marxist concepts like reification and commodity fetishism, how the loss of identity when you lose a job is because, right, it's not something inherent, right? It's not like thinking about a book read a while ago. A friend gave it to me. It was like called The End of Work, written I think in 1995 by some American economist. It was just he recognized that Americans lose their sense of identity, and there's devastating impacts when they lose their job. However, didn't realize that isn't the result of capitalist reification, right? And there's something to be learned there, because when people lose their jobs, and when there's entire communities that are deindustrialized, then it reduces the impact of capitalistic reification, gives the opportunity for the development of new concepts of identity and community to be forged, which will ideally be, hopefully, and I'm pretty invariably will be less resilient to division and propaganda, right? That there's a potential for the creation within these deindustrialized communities of actual political coalitions, which can be used to benefit the lives not just for the members of those communities, but the people who have that same lot in their future, and people who have already been left by the economic system, right? We think about unemployment, right? And the reason it's so devastating is because these reified bourgeois concepts of, private individual property, these... To explain, I guess maybe I'll go back a little bit and just touch on reification. You keep on bringing it up as if people, might be... take it for granted that everybody knows it, but think of it almost as a process of coming up with philosophies, ideologies, explanations to justify your current conditions and attributing a universality to them, right? It's almost as if saying that the conditions that, the conditions that I observe are universal and are thinking of a good example, I guess, would be the geocentric theory of the the arrangement of the universe, right? People had believed, they start off with a really intuitive notion that Earth is the center, right? Everything revolves around us. Starting from that point, they developed these systems like Ptolemaic astronomy, which explain the movement and the different phenomena that we see in the celestial bodies. And it seems like you have this rigid explanation, but because it's based off of this faulty starting point, the geocentrism, right? The Earth is the beginning. The entire system is just garbage, right? It's the same thing with liberal bourgeois ideology, or you think about the concepts. In America is really clear, and when you look at the founding of America, where concepts like private property and free exchange are necessary for the free flow of a capitalist society, and bourgeois intellectuals like the founding fathers, who are trying to come up with explanations of it, see it as an invariable right, like just it's only natural that individuals would be able to own and have complete domination over their property, even though these people's property, these founding fathers' property included slaves and stolen land, right? They're just working backwards and whatnot. So like it gives the loss of jobs, the loss of the progressive deindustrialization of these communities, opens up the opportunity to move past that. I think, though, and this is one point of potential divergence with Marx, and is that that's not going to be the end of it. Right? It's not the beginning. Capitalism is not so much the beginning of reification as it is like the acceleration of it. Right? Commodity fetishism that Marx talks about. This is one point that was interesting. He takes it for granted that commodity trading. I think about to explain that a little bit further. I don't want to take it for granted. Everybody knows, if Marx talks about the use value of an object, like for example, corn has a use value in that it alleviates my hunger, but it also has an exchange value, right? I can give my corn to you in exchange for something, right? Marx says that when something is exchanged when something is developed for its exchange value, it is a commodity, right? And Marx says is that this commodity trading begins at the point where primitive communities meet. It doesn't occur within these primitive communities. He just takes it for granted that it occurs when they begin to interact, and then it cascades within the society. However, think about why those societies those communities would view themselves as distinct, right? That capitalism, the commodity trading, is the necessary form that exchange would take between them, because they see themselves as being separate entities. I never really analyzed why that might be, because it probably raised at the time he saw it as just took it for granted that people were already split up into definite groups, right? That there were inherent differences in these people, which isn't really borne out by modern notions of anthropology and evolutionary bio, right? So capitalism and commodity trading didn't begin the process of reification, but because it has accelerated it, we can learn a lot, we can develop a lot by pushing against that capitalistic notion. But it's a danger to think that we won't have stumbling blocks, right? I think, though, and I'll just shut up after this point, is that the benefit of these communities, these post-industrialized communities, hopefully post-capitalist reification, once you move away from these notions, the benefit isn't that you'll have a utopian society where everybody's living in harmony. It's that you can begin the process of understanding the divisions and the conflicts in human interaction that had led to those commodity trading in the first place, right? That a lot of our work is still cut out for us after we move away from capitalism, but that move is going to be necessary, right? And industrialization really adds a sense of urgency to these problems. Urgency that it should really dominate our interactions with Biden presidency and his supporters. And because think about many of the solutions that band-aids that Biden proposes for some of the problems of deindustrialization, right? Like, for example, loss of income and loss of housing. He provides subsidies, right? Subsidies, private subsidies, which is it's an unsustainable condition, right? Like if we have automation, fewer people with jobs, a reduction in the tax base, we're going to have more and more people who are required the subsidies and fewer people to tax for them, right? We need public housing now. We need to make these investments now while we have the tax base, right? We can, things like that. But yeah, anyway, I'll shut up now. Bye.